They say everything in Australia wants to kill you, but that's just the beginning of the mystery. Australia is a land where the animals seem to have skipped the evolutionary memo, where the seasons run backward, and where ancient cultures speak in stories older than the pyramids. It's a country of staggering beauty, haunting history, and weird facts that almost no one outside its shores knows, and even many Aussies haven't heard. This is 20 amazing facts you never knew about Australia, and trust me, by the end, you'll never see this sunburnt land the same way again. Welcome to True History in Minutes, where everyday objects reveal their hidden past. Wait till the end to learn an amazing fact about Australia's fearsome locals. Let's start with something bizarre. Australia is home to the world's longest fence. It's called the Dingo Fence, and it stretches over 5,600 kilometers, longer than the Great Wall of China. Why? To keep dingoes, wild native dogs, out of fertile farmland in the southeast. But here's the kicker. It's only partially effective. Dingoes still get through, and today, scientists argue the fence causes more ecological harm than good. Yet it still stands, a giant scar running across the outback. Now for something even stranger. Australia once lost a war against emus. Yes, in 1932, farmers in Western Australia begged the military to help control thousands of emus destroying crops. Armed soldiers showed up with machine guns. The emus outran the soldiers, dodged bullets, and scattered so effectively that the army eventually gave up. It's now known as the Great Emu War. And the emus? Technically, they won. But Australia's surprises go much deeper than strange battles. For example, it's one of the only countries in the world that is also a continent. But did you know it's also the largest island and the smallest continent? A geographical paradox if there ever was one. And depending on who you ask, it might even be home to a secret eighth continent called Zealandia, submerged just to the east under the Pacific, with only New Zealand and a few islands poking above the waves. Now let's talk about time. Not metaphorically, actual time. Australia has not 2, not 3, but 6 different time zones, and some of them don't even follow the hour mark. There's a town called Eucla, for instance, that runs on a 45-minute offset. So when it's 3 p.m. in Perth, it's 3:45 in Eucla. Try setting up a Zoom call there. And speaking of strange divisions, there's a town called Broken Hill in New South Wales, but it doesn't follow New South Wales time. It follows South Australian time. Why? Because it's closer to Adelaide. Logical, yet completely confusing for anyone not from there. Now let's zoom out. Australia is massive, about the size of the continental United States, yet it has a population smaller than Texas. That means you can drive for hours or even days without seeing a soul. The Outback is so remote, Australia invented the Royal Flying Doctor Service, the world's first air ambulance, just to reach people living hundreds of kilometers from the nearest hospital. In the bush, your nearest neighbor might be 300 kilometers away, but the doctor can still land in your backyard. Still think of Australia as new? Think again. Indigenous Australians have lived on this land for over 65,000 years, making theirs the oldest continuous culture on Earth. That's older than Stonehenge, older than the Egyptian pyramids. Their stories, called Dreamtime, aren't just myths. They're maps, weather guides, histories, and spiritual philosophies passed down through unbroken generations. Now here's something wild. Uluru, the giant red rock in the center of the country, isn't just a natural wonder. It's a spiritual epicenter for the Anangu people, who've lived around it for tens of thousands of years. Tourists used to climb it, ignoring indigenous requests not to. But in 2019, after decades of campaigning, climbing Uluru was finally banned, marking a powerful victory for Aboriginal voices. And yet, despite this ancient presence, Australia's modern history is brutally young. The country became a federation in 1901. Before that, it was 6 separate colonies, each with their own laws and systems. And even after uniting, Australia remained so tied to Britain that until 1986, its laws still required approval from London. Now for a darker chapter. When British colonists arrived in 1788, Australia became a penal colony. Over 160,000 convicts were transported from Britain over the next 80 years. But not all were hardened criminals. Some were just petty thieves. One woman was sentenced to 7 years in the colonies for stealing a loaf of bread. Today, many Australians proudly trace their ancestry back to these so-called convicts who helped build the foundations of the country. But here's a shocking twist. Australia has never had a civil war or a revolution. Unlike most Western nations, it achieved nationhood without a single battle for independence. It's a country born more from negotiation than bloodshed. Yet the conflict wasn't entirely avoided. It was merely redirected. The frontier wars between settlers and Aboriginal Australians were long, violent, and devastating, yet often left out of mainstream history books. Let's get lighter for a moment. Ever heard of the drop bear? Australians will warn you about them. Koala-like creatures that drop from trees to attack unsuspecting tourists. But here's the truth. Drop bears aren't real. They're an inside joke played on gullible visitors. And yet, the myth has become so popular, even official tourism websites play along with a wink. Speaking of animals, Australia has some of the weirdest biodiversity on Earth. Over 80% of its plants, mammals, and reptiles are found nowhere else. You've heard of kangaroos and koalas, but have you met the echidna? It's one of only 2 mammals on Earth that lays eggs. The other? The platypus, also from Australia. Scientists first thought the platypus was a hoax when specimens were sent to Europe. A mammal with a duck bill that lays eggs and sweats milk must be stitched together. It wasn't. Now for something a bit more celestial. The skies above the Australian Outback are some of the clearest on the planet. You can see the Milky Way in full glory, stretching from horizon to horizon. In fact, the Aboriginal night sky stories, which predate Greek mythology, align with actual constellations. For example, the emu in the sky isn't formed by stars, but by the dark spaces between them. It's one of the only sky cultures to map darkness instead of light. Here's a fact that might blow your mind. Canberra, the capital of Australia, was a compromise. Sydney and Melbourne both wanted the title, and neither would back down, so the government chose to build an entirely new city in between. The result? A meticulously planned capital that no one outside Australia can spell or pronounce correctly. And what about sports? While cricket and rugby are big, the uniquely Australian obsession is Australian rules football, or footy. It's a chaotic mix of soccer, rugby, and basketball, played on a giant oval field. There are no pads, barely any rules as you'd recognize them, and it's as brutal as it is beloved. But despite its physical toughness, Australia is also a leader in environmental preservation. It's home to the Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system on Earth, and one of the most endangered. Rising sea temperatures are bleaching the coral at an alarming rate, yet scientists across Australia are leading world-first coral regeneration projects to save it. And finally, let's talk about humor. Australians have a dry, self-deprecating wit that's hard to explain until you've heard it firsthand. They shorten everything. Afternoon becomes arvo, breakfast is brekkie, and McDonald's. That's just macas. They'll tease you, joke with you, and probably offer you a beer all in the same sentence. And let's talk about one of Australia's most fearsome locals, crocodiles. Australia is home to 2 species, the freshwater crocodile and the infamous saltwater crocodile, or salty, as Aussies casually call them. These beasts are the largest living reptiles on Earth, with males sometimes growing over 20 feet long. That's the length of a small bus. But here's what's truly wild. Saltwater crocs can live over 70 years, swim in both salt and fresh water, and are known to travel hundreds of miles through rivers, billabongs, and even out to sea. One was even tracked crossing the open ocean for 400 miles. Imagine relaxing on a remote beach, and that guy rolls up. Unlike many animals that avoid humans, salties are apex predators, bold, smart, and ambush hunters. In the top end of Australia, you'll often see signs near waterways warning, "Crocodiles inhabit this area. Do not swim." It's not a joke. Locals know if you see nothing, you're probably being watched. And yet, crocodiles are deeply respected, even admired, in Indigenous Australian culture. In some Dreamtime stories, crocs are seen as ancient protectors, spiritual forces tied to the land and water. So if you ever visit Australia's northern wilderness, keep your camera ready and your distance respectful. The crocs were here long before us, and they'll likely be here long after. So next time someone mentions Australia, think beyond the beaches and kangaroos. Think of ancient songs echoing across red deserts, of underwater worlds and silent skies, of battles fought with emus and fences that stretch across the planet. Australia isn't just a country, it's a continent of contradictions, stitched together by land, language, and story. And now, you know it just a little better. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash the bell for more amazing facts from history's hidden corners. In the next episode, we will be exploring 20 fascinating facts about New Zealand. Also, do me a favor, only 9% of viewers are subscribed. If you're one of the 91% just passing through, why not make it official? Smash that subscribe button and help us reach more awesome people like you. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.